Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. Um, Today, is an episode that I feel perfectly captures what I feel like this podcast is really all what it's meant to be. What what the origin of this podcast is really supposed to be. It's whatever I want it to be, per se, but it is essentially going to be however many minutes of me just sitting here, like, explaining why my opinion on this matter is valid, and I will not hear any other opinions. Fix my necklace is gonna blow the shit out of me. Oh god. You know how, like, on necklaces, like the chain part that connects it together always, like, comes up in the front? Why can't, like, I feel like we've invented almost everything known to man, but we haven't created necklaces where the back part doesn't just stay in the back. So, I barely got any sleep. I'll be honest. I'm a little out of it right now. It's still, I don't want to say it's early in the morning because it could be earlier, but it's 10:14. I've been up for about an hour and a half, but I went to bed at like almost 2. So that's highly unfortunate for me. I had a leftover coffee that I got yesterday that I just, obviously, if I'm paying like $7 for a coffee, I'm not going to just like waste it and throw it out. So yeah, I did stick it back in my fridge and put more ice in it. And now it's like a slightly watered down version of the coffee I had earlier. It's a iced pistachio latte from Starbucks. Highly recommend. They got their pistachio back. I think it's only for a few months. It starts in January. I think it maybe goes away in like April. I don't know. I just made that up. But what else to catch you guys up on real quick? This is like my therapy sessions, in a sense that, like, every week I have to catch my therapist up on things. Obviously, like, I catch her up on like the things that she missed that week. And then we, go into detail of the things that happened and talk about it, and she counsels me. But in a sense, I have to catch you guys up on what's been going on since I last talked to you. Last time I talked to you guys, it was 2022. It is now 2023. Happy New Year. Hopefully you guys have an amazing year. I'm excited to see what's in store for the pod and just for me and for you guys, and sending extremely positive vibes your way. Just remember, you're in control of your life and you get to choose how things play out for you. You're in control of that. And you just have to keep remembering what you are in control of and what you aren't in control of. So keep that in mind and be nice to yourself. You only get one self, so be nice to yourself. Next up, on my things I want to catch you guys up on, I started reading a book. Holy shit. I go through these phases where, I, like, will read 15 books in a month, and then other times I won't read a book for, like, 6 months. And I'm back. I got a bunch of books for Christmas, and so obviously I want to read them. I think I've been in such a drought of reading for so long, like months. I got books for my birthday last June that I still haven't read. So I got a lot of catching up to do. And here's the thing. I have ADHD, and, like, diagnosed officially, which is very difficult, by the way, to do in adults, but that's a whole topic that I don't feel like getting into. And it's really hard for me to like start something new. So like a book or a movie or a new TV show. And I have a really hard time finishing things. And so for books, like I have to listen to the audiobook for the first like couple chapters or so many pages to like get to the point where it starts to like pick up, because the books don't really like get to their point until like, I don't know, a couple chapters in, 100 pages in or whatever. And so for the first like 100 pages or so, I have to listen to it, because if I don't have someone like reading it to me until it gets to like a good intriguing part where I can read it by myself, like good luck me ever finishing that book. It's just like not gonna happen. So I'm currently reading The Secret History, and I've wanted to read this for a long time. It blew up on TikTok like about last year or something, and I've had it on my books to read for a long time. And I finally got it, and I didn't really know what it was about, but I just heard really, really, really great things about it. So I got it for Christmas, and basically anyone who's wanting to read it, I haven't finished it yet, but I just got to like kind of almost the turning point. I'm like almost on page 200, and there's like fucking 500 pages. But I don't know but at the part that I'm at right now, I don't know how there's still like 300 pages left, but that's beyond me. It's about it's first person narrative, but it's about this guy who goes to this school, has a kind of hard life, kind of a harsh family upbringing, and he goes to this college in Vermont, and he joins this very like elitist group of kids that are like kind of the oddballs. Everyone just is like, it's like they only all hang out with each other, and they all only ever have this one professor, and this one professor is extremely like picky about his students. Like there's only 5 of them, and then this new guy comes in, and everyone's like, dude, stay away from them, like they're fucking weird, like they worship the devil and some shit. So it's basically like these students who are all like incredibly intellectually smart. They all come from like a lot of money, and this new guy is like, he's smart, but he did not come from a wealthy upbringing. And there's like, as the story goes along, like there's these little bits and pieces that the narrator mentions where you're like, that's a little weird that they're doing that. But and then just boom, like I literally read it last night, and I'm like, what the fuck? And the prologue of the book is like really like it gets right off the bat, you're like, what the fuck? Okay, gotta figure out why that happened. So from the beginning, it's like, you're like, okay, I read this in the prologue, I know what happens, like, and it's like it mentions it throughout the book, but you still don't know how that thing happened that you read in the prologue. So just from the start, you're already hooked. And there are some parts where it's like it gets a little slow, but then it's like the author like just ramps it up. I'm sorry I'm like babbling on about this. I'll get into the topic in a second, but I just feel like I really need to get this off my chest. I haven't been able to talk to anyone about it, so if you guys are going to listen to this episode, I figured you might as well just fucking get it out now. And it's like these students who are like all hyper focused on Greek, the language, and just like the Romans and Greek gods and everything, and they make so many references to like Greek gods or mythology, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. I don't know who that person is, but I'm like sitting on my phone with my book next to me, like Googling shit, 'cause I'm like, I don't know what the fuck this means, but this feels really important. But I wish I could talk about it more in detail, but I don't want to ruin it if any of you guys want to read it. It's called The Secret History. It's really, really fucking good so far. It deserves all the hype, and I'm very interested to see where the rest of it's going to go. Now, to get into today's discussion, which is the greatest movies of all time. Now, I want to not reiterate because I haven't mentioned it yet, but I want to point out that I have zero credibility for this topic. Well, yeah, no, I really don't. I was gonna say I took a class on American pop culture, and it was focused on horror. I don't like horror movies, but I didn't feel like changing classes, and I was like, I like the professor, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna have to watch horror movies and read horror movies, and we're just gonna have to deal with it. And so I spent like a whole semester basically reviewing movies and books and TV shows that were based on horror. So I have some very, very, very slight insight on how, movies should be set up. But that is to the extent of my credibility I have to talk about, to claim that these are the greatest movies of all time. I'll also be talking about movies that I feel like people think are the greatest movies of all time, and I feel like they really, really shouldn't be. As I was doing research for this, and I'll get into this in depth later, but I looked at a list of the 100 greatest movies of all time. They were all like from 1923, 1938, and I'm like, how great can a movie be that was made that long ago? It's like, how great can it be? It was all in black and white. They talked in riddles. The acting was subpar, but again, and I'm going to say this probably a lot, again, I really don't have much credibility, but it is my podcast, and if you disagree with me, yep, you know it, argue with the wall. So, number 1, in my opinion, greatest movie of all time is Little Women. Now, this is originally a book written by Louisa May Alcott. It was written in the 1800s, I think, like beginning, middle 1800s. And it's featuring, I can't pronounce her one name, Saros Ronan, I don't know, Florence Pugh, Timothy Chalamet, Emma Watson, Eliza Scanlon, Laura Dern, and Meryl Streep, among others. And it's essentially about, it focuses on the March sisters, and kind of just their relationship with each other. And they meet this neighbor who comes from a very, very wealthy family, and they kind of hang out with him, which is Timothy Chalamet, aka Laurie. And it kind of just goes through their lives and kind of what women have to go through. I don't want to say it's a feminist movie, but it definitely highlights, obviously it's focused on women, but it just goes on, it focuses on what women went through in society for marriage, jobs, expectations, their roles in society, while also kind of being a romance movie too, with Jo, which is the main character, the main sister, and Laurie too. They kind of form this bond where he falls in love with her, but she's very, very independent, and she's very kind of driven on writing this story and kind of just pursuing her career, which was very not normal during this time period. And she goes it's such a beautifully directed, and it was, who was it directed by? I feel like I should know this. It's Greta Gerwig, I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's also the one who directed the new Barbie movie with Margot Robbie. And Jo and Laurie, which is the girl, I can't pronounce her name, she's Irish, and Timothy Chalamet, who's Laurie, he kind of falls in love with her, and there's a point in the movie where he's professing his love, and you've probably heard this sound on TikTok or seen clips of it, but he's professing his love in obviously the most romantic way possible that men just don't do anymore, because it's always just hey, I think you're hot, you're banging, you got a sexy ass, I think I love you. But before it was I'm bewitched by you. God, can we bring that back, please? I want a man to come up to me and be I am bewitched by you. You have my heart and my body and soul. Can we bring that back, maybe? Please? And essentially it goes through like it's so heart-wrenching. And I'm going to say, I don't really think they're spoilers, but like, I don't know, I guess maybe they might be spoilers, but I'll just talk about it anyways. Sorry. And it's like they don't end up together because she is just like so determined to focus on her career, Joe. And but at one point she's like, well, maybe, you know, maybe I can try to love him, you know. And the mom is like, but do you love him? And she's like, well, I love the idea of being loved. And it just really captures the like constant battles women go through of just like, sometimes we want to just be a stay-at-home mom, and that's fulfilling enough. And sometimes we just want to be independent and not get married and feel fully fulfilled with just pursuing our career. And I think that it just is captured so beautifully, and I love that it is still still relevant, like over 100 years later, that it's the same kind of thing that women go through, like these internal battles of like, can I be independent and single and still feel like I am loved and like I am wanted and still feel fulfilled? And so I just, and this movie also has kind of like a sentimental value of it with me, because I saw it with my great aunt kind of a few months before she passed, and not even a month after her husband had passed. They died within a year. Tough time for the fam. But we went to go see it with her on New Year's Eve, because that's what her and her husband used to do. And so since he had passed, we went to go see it with her. And we saw it in the theaters. And so that kind of has like a sentimental value in that aspect of it. But it's a comfort movie. And I wish I could watch it more, but I can't, because you have to have like Hulu Premium or something, which is so fucking stupid. Like, if I have a subscription to a fucking place, like, why do I have to get an extra subscription to a subscription I already have? I don't know. It's fucking bullshit. So I have to like illegally watch it and risk getting a virus on my computer, but worth it. I picked out some quotes from the movie that I just feel like they just have a grip on my tiny little brain that just is constantly playing. Like, these scenes are just constantly playing in my mind that, good God, sorry, that I love so much. Got a burp, hang on. Anywho, this one is said by Jo, the main character. She says, women, they have minds and they have souls as well as just hearts. They've got ambition and they have talent as well as just beauty. I'm so sick of people saying that love is just all a woman is fit for. So I love this quote because it represents how I personally feel with the constant battle of like wanting to be in a relationship, but that's kind of what is just expected. Like, oh, you know, any boyfriends, girlfriends, you know, dating anyone. It's kind of just this expectation that like women are just, it's not that it, you know, it's all we're good for, but to a certain extent, it's like, it's almost, that's what we're expected to be, is to be a wife, to be a girlfriend. And why can't we be recognized more for our ambition and for our hearts and for our talents and our intellect? I feel like that's just grazed over because we're just looked at like this figure of reproduction and nurturing, but why can't we be figures of intellect and leadership? So that's why I really enjoyed that quote. Not to get too hefty. Don't worry, this first movie is like my most serious one, and then I get into other movies that are like, that are still, in my opinion, the greatest movies of all time. But they're arguably a little silly. That's a very ominous pretext to that. Next quote. Good God. This one kills me. This is by Amy. Amy says this, which is Florence Pugh. She says, which you've probably heard it or seen it on TikTok. At least I have. Obviously, I'm on that side of TikTok. But she's saying this to Laurie, which is Timothée Chalamet's character. And he's kind of talking about women and marrying for money and or rather they should, instead of marrying for money, they should marry for love. And this is kind of her response. And she says, well, I'm not a poet, I'm just a woman, and as a woman I have no way to make money, not enough to earn a living and to support my family. Even if I had my own money, which I don't, it would belong to my husband the minute we were married. If we had children, they would belong to him, not me. They would be his property. So don't sit there and tell me that marriage isn't an economic proposition, because it is. It may not be for you, but it most certainly is for me. The way she delivers this, like, I can never, I'm not going to sit here and like deliver it the way she delivers it, but holy shit, my God, the way she delivers this line is absolutely like breathtaking, because it just perfectly highlights how women looked at marriage in this specific time period. And it honestly could still be relevant to like women in today's society, and how men inherently make more money than women. But this quote just like perfectly encapsulates how women viewed marriage back in that day. And it's like it's just shows the kind of like ownership men had over women in that point, while not bashing on men. It just like, she was just straight up being like, you know what, yeah, we do kind of rely on men to like have a good life, and it doesn't make you a gold digger, just makes you a smart businesswoman, essentially, back in that day. Next quote. This is also Amy's quote by Florence Pugh. This is kind of this is whenever Laurie, Timothée Chalamet, is professing his love now to Amy after Joe had already rejected him. And she says, I have been second to Joe my whole life in everything, and I will not be the person you settle for just because you cannot have her. I won't do it. Not when I've been my entire life. Not whenever I've been loving you my entire life. So she's always had a crush on Laurie, and everyone kind of knew he loved Joe. And whenever Joe rejected him, he went to Amy, and so she was like, no, like, I won't be this second best. I've been second best to her my entire life. I won't just let you settle for me just because she rejected you. And she does her little like frown thing that she does in all of her roles. And this quote stuck out to me the most, because I feel like I can personally relate to her, where it's kind of not like in terms of like my sister, but I just feel like growing up, I feel like I was always kind of just like, oh, I couldn't get her, okay, I'll take her. And that is just the worst feeling ever. It's the embodiment of how rejection feels, or when you're someone else's second choice in romantic relationships or in friendships. I, growing up, didn't have, that kind of best friend, always the first choice relationship. And I mean, now I do, and it's the greatest feeling, but there is nothing worse than just, getting asked to hang out just because their first choice couldn't hang out with them. It's a terrible feeling. Just truly the worst. So yes, that's kind of all I have for that first movie. That was the longest one. So that was the most, heavy one. This second one was my favorite movie for a really long time, like my number one. Until I watched Little Women. So this is number 2. It's called Stuck in Love. It's for the book lovers who also have divorced parents. This is for you guys. It has Lily Collins, Nat Wolff, Kristen Bell, Liana Liberto, Logan Lerman, a couple others that you might not really know. This is like a little excerpt. That's kind of what it's about. William is an acclaimed author who hasn't written a word since his ex-wife Erica left him 3 years ago for another man. In between spying on Erica and casual romps with his married neighbor, Trisha, Bill is dealing with the complexities of raising his teenage children, Samantha and Rusty. Then Rusty falls in love with a girl, but shit hits the fan. I added that last part. They didn't write that on like a website. I think I really like this movie because I can kind of relate to it in the aspect of, like, me and my sister are 4 years apart in age, so we were both teenagers at the same time, and I also have divorced parents. Not that this is obviously kind of almost a romanticized version, but and obviously they get together in the end, the married or the divorced couple, which is what every child of divorce dreams of, or at least for some time. Especially whenever you're kind of younger. But I think the reason I really love this movie is because, one, I can relate to it, kind of, and 2, because I love the actors in it, and 3, because it kind of revolves around an author and books and the ups and downs you have whenever going through writing things and creating things. It gets a little heavy with like drug abuse, but that's kind of the heaviest it gets. I just think that it's beautifully directed. I don't know the director, but I think that, like, I don't know. I think that they portrayed divorce and the complexities of, I don't know what it's like to raise teenagers. I do know what it's like to be a teenager, and I know that it can be a bitch to be a teenager. But I think that it's filmed, directed, written, and portrayed in all a beautiful way, and I highly recommend it. Nat Wolff, like the Naked Brother bands, the Naked Brother band. Yeah, with Nat Wolff and his little brother. Well, Nat Wolff is in this, so if you're feeling a little nostalgic about the Naked Brother bands, then you should watch it. Sorry, guys, I'm really trying to wake up right now. I really am. I'm really trying for you guys. Next. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. God, this movie is so good. I forgot about it for a while, and then I watched it recently, and I'm like, Kate Hudson, come on. Hard eye. Is that a cat or a bird? Oh, sorry, guys. Distracted out the wazoo, let me tell you. Kate Hudson, heart eye emoji. Also, Matthew McConaughey, heart eye emoji. And this movie was made in, the prime rom-com era, along with, I can't think of any other rom-coms right now, but, that era, or, 10 Things I Hate About You, that genre and that era of rom-coms, we need to bring it back. They just don't make them like they used to. They really don't. And the reason that I really thought about this movie, one, because I love it, and I think that it's the epitome of a great rom-com that's not too cheesy, but also warms your heart up and has beautiful actors in it. I thought of it because of the reemergence of whenever Kate Hudson's character is singing "You're So Vain," but she's like, "They'd be Ben's partner, they'd be Ben's partner," um, and like I think I'm gonna watch it after I'm done recording this because it makes me feel warm inside, and I truly love it. I love it so much. Um, Another reason I love it is because she's a journalist, she's a writer, and the whole thing. She's the reason why she's doing this. The How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days is because she's writing an article about how to lose a guy in 10 days. And then I should probably explain what this movie's about as if you guys all, I mean, I would hope all of you have seen it. It's an older movie. She's like, she's writing an article and she finds Matthew McConaughey's character. And he's having a bet on how long he can keep this relationship, and she like just acts batshit crazy like to see how long like what it takes for him to break up with her, and obviously they end up falling in love at the end, but like it's kind of just like one of those bets, and then he finds out and this and that and but good God, it makes me so happy. It's like, oh, you know, it's almost like an enemies to lovers, because it's like he's so fucking fed up with her, and she's like so annoyed with him, but it's like, no, it's like, you love him, babe, just say it. But yeah, she's a writer, I'm a writer, kind of. I mean, I have a degree in journalism, so it's just kind of #relatable. Sorry, that was so gross. All right, next up. This is where, you know, it kind of gets a little silly, little crazy. The Ice Age films are peak comedy. Like, and I know you might be thinking, Lily, you're dumb. And that's fine. But I'm going to sit here, I'm going to tell you that the Ice Age saga is just like, it just makes me laugh. I know it's kind of meant for kids, but I don't care. I do the Sid the Sloth impression on a daily basis. It's probably annoying and I'm not going to do it just because I feel like you have to really know me and to be around me, and it has to be in like a natural setting for me to kind of, you know, really get the full effect on it. So I won't do it, but just know that if you want some mind-numbing content, watch the Ice Age films. Next, number 5, How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Similar to Ice Age, it's just pure peak comedy, in my opinion. Jim Carrey's performance is impeccable for it being made in 1999 and released in 2000, I think. The CGI and like the makeup and special effects are just fucking immaculate. Like, I can't believe that like every day all of those characters went into hair and makeup to look like the Whoville characters. And I was watching an interview once on Jim Carrey and his performance in The Grinch, and he was saying that like most of the time he wasn't actually, you know, acting. He wasn't doing method acting. He was just constantly fucking pissed because he was just hot and sweaty in his costume. I mean, I would be too. It was just like it was like long hot hours of being in that suit and that makeup, and just like it'd be every day he'd have to go in and it'd just be hours of putting on his costume, and I would be just as mad. And so he was saying that like he was just constantly fucking fed up with it, and so him being an asshole in the movie was honestly just like him getting his emotions out because he was just constantly fucking annoyed. So, what else do I have? Oh yeah, the hate, double hate, loathe. I love doing that. Just another thing that I like to quote in the 5 o'clock dinner with myself. Can't mess that one again. You know, that's just, you know, that's also something that trends on TikTok very often. Next, Crazy Stupid Love. Stellar cast. All the right people. If you haven't seen it, you should go watch it. It's kind of like a staple piece for Valentine's Day. So if you want to watch a little rom-com, go ahead and watch that movie. Has Steve Carell in it. And that's Ryan Gosling, Emma Stone, and I can't think of anyone else right now. Sorry, but that's about it. Hitch. It has Will Smith in it. Me, my mom, and my sister watched this so much growing up. I don't know why, but it's about this guy. His last name's Hitch, and which is Will Smith. And he's kind of like this love doctor, and he meets this guy, the guy who plays Mall Cop, Paul Bart. I don't know what his real name is, but he meets this guy, and he's like trying to get this like hot woman definitely out of her league. Kind of that, obviously, the non-traditional attractive guy always gets the hot girl, like in every Adam Sandler movie ever. It's just, God, there's this one scene that I always just like have playing in the back of my head where Will Smith is trying to teach I can't even remember his name. I should have looked this up, but the other guy, I'm gonna call him Bart Paul, I don't know, to how to dance, and he's like, do the Q-tip, throw it away, make the pizza, like just like the stupid basic dance moves that just should never see the light of day, and he's like doing them, and it's funny, and it's a classic movie, and you can't go wrong with it. Similarly, this is like the same era of movies that I watched whenever I was younger with my mom and sister. The Proposal with Ryan Reynolds and Sandra Bullock. Fucking amazing. Also, side note, for the longest time, up until I was probably like 17 or 18, I said Sandra Bullock because that's how it's fucking pronounced, but I'm pretty sure it's Sandra Bullock. Or maybe it's the other way around, and I just can't remember. But I'm going to say Sandra Bullock. But I think I said Sandra Bullock all my life. But I don't know. Ryan Reynolds in his prime in this movie. He's young. I mean, he's still sexy to this day. I mean, my God. But he's like his prime, his primo self in this movie. And it's basically about this executive who is, I think, from Canada. And she has this, I think he's her assistant. Ryan Reynolds is her assistant. And she is getting deported. And she needs to get her green card and in order to like stay in the country. And she she essentially fakes a relationship with Ryan Reynolds, and like he takes her to his family's house, I think in Vermont or Maine or something, like this beautiful, gorgeous house. Betty White's in it, R.I.P. Really miss that woman. I thought she was going to live forever, honestly. But she didn't. It's really unfortunate. Miss her. And she's in it, and it's just fucking hilarious. Like, just the most ridiculous things that Sandra Bullock went through during this. And he has to, like, fake propose to her. And it's a feel-good movie. Like, a lot of these movies are. Now, I'm going to start talking about movies that I don't want to hear are the greatest movies of all time. I have 2 listed, but I'm sure I'll think of more as we continue. Number 1, Pulp Fiction. Fucking hate that movie. Pulp Fiction, one of the worst movies I've ever watched in my entire life. I don't have a long list of worst movies because if I don't like a movie in the first half, I either turn it off, or if I do watch the whole thing, I immediately just forget about it. Like, it immediately leaves my head. So I've probably watched more horrible movies, but these are just the 2 that came to my mind. I watched Pulp Fiction with my first boyfriend, and he really liked it. And I just remember like sitting on the couch being like, what am I doing with my life right now? This is the longest, most boring movie of my entire fucking life. And I'm never going to get back these however many hours. I feel it's like nothing happens in it. Nothing fucking happens in it. And I was just utterly fucking confused the entire time. And I was trying to pay attention. I was trying to like it because I know he liked it. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. No. It wasn't clicking for me. Horrible fucking movie. I never ever want to hear anyone like I don't understand. It was on that list of 100 best movies of all time. What the fuck? Why? Because it's like iconic. Why is it iconic? Oh, because it's good. No. It's people who have bad taste in movies are watching it and liking it. Sorry that, you think that a terrible movie is a good movie. That's not my fault. It's a horrible movie. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing happens in it. And that's just that. I will not explain any further. Next up, Wolf of Wall Street. Good movie. Margot Robbie stellar in it. Don't get the hype. And I also would argue that both of these movies, if a man says that these are his favorite movies, that's red flag, in my opinion, and I won't elaborate because if you know, you know. If you know. I do want to point out that I don't really watch movies before 1990 or 2000, and on this the opinion of or like the best movies of all time, most of them, like I mentioned earlier, are from like the beginning of the 1900s, and rarely any of them were past 2010. So I guess maybe they just don't make movies like they used to, which I would argue that they have the resources to make really great movies. But I also think the reason why a lot of these older movies were or are like claimed to be like the greatest movies of all time is because there wasn't anything before it. It was like innovative. So for example, the movie Psycho, it was like one of the foundations of horror, in the way that it was done was kind of like just got a wild text message. The way that it was like filmed was something new, and I think that it's really hard to do like new things nowadays because it just kind of feels like everything's been done. Same with like innovations. I just feel like it's hard to like come up with something new because it's just like everything's already been done. So I feel like that's maybe why a lot of the movies recently haven't gotten a chance to like create something new, come up with something new, because it's like there are like millions of movies out there that have already done something. So but I think that movies that come out within the last 10 years, I say give it another 50, and I feel like some of them will make it onto that list. I just also feel like it just hasn't had enough time. Some of them haven't had enough time to like make that list, like, okay, a movie that was made in 1932 can't be that good. Like I was saying earlier, I just feel like it just but again, like I just said, I feel like it's because it kind of was like something new for that time, and so it just has become iconic. It was like they were the first to do it. Like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre was on this list, and I know that was like a huge monumental stepping stone for the horror movie industry because of, I think, just like the gore of it, and also like the final girl aspect. And if you don't know about it, that's like something I learned about in that class I was talking about earlier, where it was kind of the foundation that horror movies have today, essentially. Some of the movies that I did know, because I didn't know a lot of them on this list, but the ones I did know: Dark Knight Rises, Jaws, The Truman Show, but I only know The Truman Show because of New Girl, and they talk about it on that show. Blair Witch Project, Toy Story, and Get Out. The Blair Witch Project and Get Out we talked about in that class because they're horror movies, but I've seen The Dark Knight Rises. I'm pretty sure, I don't know if it was this one or it was one of the Batman movies, but it was filmed in Pittsburgh, or at least some of it was, which fun fact of the day. Jaws I've seen, but again, it didn't really do it for me. It was good, especially for its time it was made in, but it didn't strike me as like the greatest movie of all time. Truman Show, haven't seen it, but I just know of it. I know very, very little about it. Blair Witch Project, here's the thing. That movie was one of the first of its kind in the sense of, like, the actors were portraying, like, it was supposed to be a movie that was, like, based on true events, and it was made kind of before social media, and these actors had went out into the woods, and it was, like, self-filmed, low budget, kind of acting like it was lost people found footage later, and everyone thought it was real, because no one had social media to know. I don't think they, like, did press for it or anything, so everyone thought it was real because it was, it looked and it was edited and directed like it was actual footage, and the actors did actually, hold the camera and film it because it was a low budget film. And it just ended up blowing up because everyone was like, holy shit, like, this is real footage. These people are dead. They're not dead, but back then people thought it was. So it was an okay movie. A little slow, but I understand why it kind of, has that title of the greatest movie of all time. Toy Story, obviously. I was very, very shocked to see this on the list because it's like, a Disney movie, but I think the reason it was on this list is because it was the catalyst for Pixar. Oh my gosh, my throat. Sorry. And it was the catalyst for, like, the Disney's popularity, or, like, Pixar's popularity, with just, like, the graphics and the animation was just, like, the first of its kind, essentially. So I understand that. It's a great movie. Would I categorize it as the greatest movies of all time, like, for the plot? I mean, maybe. But it's not the first one that would come to my mind. And then Get Out. Get Out was a really great movie. Jordan Peele's movies are really, really good. Like I said, I'm not a big horror movie watcher, scary movie watcher, but Jordan Peele's movies I will watch because he does such a great job of balancing humor and horror. I am just filled with annoying sounds today. Sorry, guys. But essentially, I would categorize Get Out as one of the greatest movies of all time. Not the first one that comes to my head just because it's horror, and that's not, like, what first comes to my head. It's not, like, my go-to, I'm going to rewatch this movie a million times. But Get Out and what's the other one? What is the other one? Jordan Peele. Whoops. So I know he came out with another movie called Nope. Oh, and Us. Us was really good. I watched it for that film class, the horror class, and we, like, hyperanalyzed it and, like, took all of the key points from it and talked about, like, all of the symbols it had. And it's just, like, so incredibly, like, he paid attention to the details to the max, and that's what I loved about it. I like hyperanalyzing things. I don't know what that says about me, but, whatever. But Get Out is a very, very great movie, and it touches on a lot of deeper things and a lot of deeper meanings, just like Us does. I don't know. I've heard Nope is good, but I haven't watched it yet. So, yeah, I would agree with that. And that was the last movie on that list. So that's all I have for today. Once again, I have absolutely no credibility of saying what's a good movie and what's not, but it's just my opinion, and this is my podcast. So, if you disagree, argue with the wall. I don't really care. Thanks for listening, guys. You can follow the pod on Instagram at Argue with the Wall, but the with is a W. You can rate this, follow it, do whatever you want with it. And again, Happy New Year. And thank you so much for listening. And I'll see you guys next week. Or listen to you guys next week. I'm going to listen to you guys next week? No. I'm going to talk to you guys next week. All right. I think I'm going to go take a nap. Bye.